On August 1st, 1969, a letter arrived at the San Francisco Examiner. It was not a normal letter. The handwriting was strange. It was messy. The words were misspelled. The message was chilling. The writer claimed he had killed 2 young people. He had shot them near Vallejo a few weeks earlier. He included details about the crime. These were details only the killer would know. Each letter contained 1/3 of a coded message. This was a cipher. The killer demanded the papers print his cipher on their front pages. He threatened more violence if they did not comply. The city was now his audience. The newspapers were his stage. He was not just a killer. He was a performer. He enjoyed the fear he created. He wanted to play a game with the police. He wanted to play a game with the public. This strange demand put the newspapers in a difficult position. Should they give a killer a platform? Should they print his bizarre puzzle? The police advised them to do it. They hoped someone could solve the cipher. They thought it might contain a clue. It might reveal the killer's identity. Or it might give them a reason for the attacks. So, the papers printed the strange symbols. The city of San Francisco woke up to a puzzle from a murderer. The game had officially begun. The letters were signed with a strange symbol. It was a circle with a cross drawn through it. It looked like the crosshairs of a rifle scope. This became his signature. This was how the world would know him. He did not give a name. He gave a symbol. He called himself the Zodiac. The name itself was a mystery. It hinted at stars. It hinted at fate. It made him sound like something more than a man. He was building a myth around himself. He was creating a character. And that character was designed to create maximum terror across Northern California. Well, he was creating it to do exactly that. The fear that started in a quiet lover's lane was now spreading through the entire Bay Area. The story began months before the letters. It started on a cold night. December 20th, 1968. 2 high school students, David Faraday, Betty Lou Jensen, were on their first date. They parked their car on a dark, remote road in Benicia. This was a local lover's lane. Suddenly, another car pulled up beside them. A man got out. He ordered them out of their car. He then shot them both. David died almost instantly. Betty Lou was shot 5 times in the back as she tried to run away. There were no witnesses. The police found shell casings. They had very few clues to follow. The killer waited. He let the fear settle. Then he struck again. On July 4th, 1969, another young couple was attacked. At Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo, Darlene Farron and Michael Mageau. A car pulled up. The driver turned off his lights. Then he approached their car with a flashlight. He shined it in their eyes. He started shooting without a word. Darlene was killed. Michael was shot multiple times, but survived. He gave police a description. He said the man was stocky. He was not very tall. He had a round face. The killer was a ghost. He appeared and disappeared. He left few solid clues behind. Michael Mageau, the survivor from the second attack, gave a description, but it was dark. The flashlight was in his eyes. He could only give general details. The man was white. He was heavy-set. He had short, light brown, curly hair. This description could fit thousands of men in the Bay Area. The police had no fingerprints from the scenes. The killer was careful. He was smart. He knew how to avoid leaving evidence that could identify him. The investigation was massive. Detectives from different counties had to work together. This was not easy in the 1960s. Information did not travel as fast as it does today. They shared reports. They compared notes. They looked for men with a history of violence. They checked gun records. They interviewed anyone who lived near the crime scenes. But the locations were remote. There were few homes nearby. The killer chose these spots for a reason. He wanted isolation. He wanted no one to see him. He wanted no one to hear the gunshots. Witnesses were hard to find. Some people reported seeing strange cars, a dark sedan, a light-colored car. No one got a license plate number. The killer moved like a phantom. He would commit his crime and then melt back into the city. He could be anyone, a neighbor, a coworker, a man you pass on the street. The Zodiac Killer understood the power of the media. He did not just send letters to the police. He sent them to the biggest newspapers in San Francisco. He knew this was the fastest way to spread fear. Every time a newspaper printed one of his letters, the entire city read his words. His threats reached every home. His strange symbol was everywhere. He became a dark celebrity, a household name. This was a new kind of terror. The killer was not just in the streets. He was on the front page of the morning paper. The city of San Francisco changed. People were afraid to go out at night. Parents warned their children. Lovers' lanes, once popular spots for young couples, were now deserted. The Zodiac had made them places of death. People bought more locks for their doors. They bought guns for protection. The feeling of safety was gone. The city felt like it was under siege. The killer could be anywhere. He could strike at any time. The phone could ring, and it could be him. A letter could arrive, and it could be from him. The media coverage was intense. Reporters followed every lead. They interviewed detectives. They talked to witnesses. They speculated about the killer's motives. Was he insane? Was he a genius? Every detail of the case was analyzed in public. This created a cycle of fear. The more the papers wrote about the Zodiac, the more he seemed to enjoy it. He wrote more letters. He made more threats. He seemed to be reading the articles about himself. He was in a conversation with the entire city, and he was in control. The Zodiac's first cipher arrived in 3 parts. He sent them to 3 different newspapers. He demanded they be published. The cipher was a block of strange symbols, letters from different alphabets, astrological signs, symbols he seemed to have invented. It was a 408 symbol puzzle. He claimed his identity was hidden inside, a direct challenge to police and the public. He dared them to unmask him. FBI cryptographers tried to solve it. Local police worked on it. But they weren't the ones who cracked it. Donald Hardin, Betty Hardin, amateur codebreakers. They spent a weekend on the puzzle. Certain symbols appeared more often. In English, E is most common. They started there. They looked for patterns. They looked for common words like the, and. Slowly, piece by piece, the message appeared. The solution was terrifying. Not a confession, no name revealed. A rambling, misspelled message from a deeply disturbed mind. I like killing people because it is so much fun. More fun than hunting animals in the forest. He said his victims would be his slaves in the afterlife. A chilling look into twisted logic. He sent more ciphers. 1. The Z340 to the San Francisco Chronicle in November 1969. Even more complex. For decades it remained unsolved. On the night of September 27, 1969, the Zodiac changed his method. He was no longer targeting couples in cars. He went to a lake. Lake Berryessa in Napa County. A young couple were relaxing by the water. Brian Hartnell, Cecilia Shepard. A man approached them. He was wearing a strange costume, black executioner-style hood. It covered his entire head. Clips for glasses over the eye holes. On his chest, a bib with the Zodiac crosshair. He was holding a gun. He told them he was an escaped convict. He said he needed their car and money to get to Mexico. He seemed calm. He had Brian tie up Cecilia with clothesline he provided. Then he tied up Brian. The couple thought it was just a robbery. They cooperated. They hoped he would just take their things and leave. After they were tied up, he pulled out a long knife. He told them he was going to have to stab them. He then stabbed them repeatedly before walking away. Before he left, he walked over to Brian's car. He used a black marker to draw his symbol on the car door. Beneath it, he wrote the dates of his previous attacks. Then, he drove to a payphone in downtown Napa and called the police. He reported a double murder. He described the car and told them where to find it. He spoke in the same calm, flat voice. This attack gave police their best witness yet. Brian Hartnell survived. Cecilia Shepard died 2 days later. From his hospital bed, Brian described the man's voice. Slow and measured. He described the strange costume in detail. Police now had a voice, a description of his build, and a detailed account of his behavior. He was theatrical. He was in control. He enjoyed the ritual of the attack. The breadcrumb trail was getting clearer. But the man behind the hood was still a complete mystery. The last confirmed murder happened just 2 weeks after the Lake Berryessa attack, October 11, 1969. A taxi driver named Paul Stine picked up a passenger in San Francisco. He was heading to the wealthy neighborhood of Presidio Heights. At an intersection, the passenger shot him in the head. The killer then took Stine's wallet, a piece of his bloody shirt. This was a major change. The victim was a man, alone. The location was in the middle of a busy city, not a remote lover's lane. The Zodiac was evolving. He was becoming more unpredictable. This time, there were witnesses. Teenagers in a house across the street saw the attack. They saw the man wiping down the cab. They called the police. The dispatcher, however, made a critical mistake. She reported that the suspect was a black man. The first officers to arrive saw a white man walking away from the scene. Because he did not match the description, they did not stop him. They just asked him if he had seen anything. He pointed them down the street and walked off into the darkness. The Zodiac had looked directly at the police and simply walked away. A few days later, a letter arrived at the San Francisco Chronicle. It was from the Zodiac. He mocked the police for their mistake. "The police shall never catch me, because I am too clever for them." He included a piece of Paul Stine's bloody shirt as proof. This was his trophy. He was rubbing their failure in their faces. This was the closest the police ever came to catching him. A simple mistake in communication allowed him to escape. After this, the trail began to grow cold. He continued to send letters, cards for years, but the confirmed attacks stopped. The investigation stalled. Detectives had a primary suspect, a man named Arthur Lee Allen. He was interviewed several times. A witness placed him near Lake Berryessa on the day of the attack. A friend said Allen had talked about the Zodiac case, had used the name. He owned a watch with the Zodiac symbol on it. But the evidence was circumstantial. His fingerprints did not match the one partial print found in the taxi. His handwriting did not seem to be a perfect match for the letters. Police searched his home but found no definitive proof. Allen denied everything. Without concrete evidence, they could not make an arrest. The case remained open, and the Zodiac remained a ghost. Years turned into decades. It became a legend, a piece of dark California history. But technology never stopped advancing. In the 21st century, new tools gave investigators new hope. The most important of these was DNA analysis. Police had saved evidence from the case. Envelopes the Zodiac had licked. Stamps he used. They hoped to find a trace of his saliva. In the early 2000s, the San Francisco Police Department tested the envelopes. They managed to develop a partial DNA profile from saliva under a stamp. The DNA did not match. For many, this cleared Allen. For others, it was not conclusive. The sample was partial. It could have been contaminated. The mystery continued. For 51 years, the ZDA 340 cipher remained unsolved. Then, in December 2020, a team of amateur codebreakers announced they had cracked it. They used sophisticated computer programs to test thousands of possible solutions. Finally, they found the answer. The Zodiac Killer was never caught. His identity remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American crime history. He terrified a major city. He murdered at least 5 people. He claimed to have killed many more. He played a twisted game with the police and the public, and in the end, he won. He was never held accountable for his crimes. He was never unmasked. He simply vanished, leaving behind a legacy of fear, a handful of cryptic letters, a series of questions that may never be answered. The case remains open to this day. The case had a lasting impact on police work. It highlighted the need for better communication between different police departments. The Zodiac struck in multiple jurisdictions. The failure to share information quickly and accurately hampered the investigation. The mistake made after the Paul Stine murder was a painful lesson. The case also pushed the boundaries of forensic science. Investigators learned the importance of preserving every piece of evidence, no matter how small. The Zodiac case also changed the relationship between the media, the public, law enforcement. The killer used newspapers as his personal stage. This created a new kind of criminal, one who craves publicity and manipulates the media to create terror. It forced police and journalists to think carefully about how they report on such cases. How do you inform the public without giving the killer the attention he wants? The ultimate lesson of the Zodiac case is a humbling one. It shows the limits of justice. Despite thousands of man-hours, dozens of detectives, mountains of evidence, a killer can sometimes get away. The breadcrumb trail can go cold. The clues can lead to a dead end. But the case also speaks to our deep need for answers. Amateur sleuths, professional investigators continue to search for the Zodiac's identity. They refuse to let the case die. They hold on to the hope that one day, a new clue, a new technology, a new way of looking at the old evidence will finally give a name to the ghost who haunted Northern California.